morning again, everybody. Corey Crane, pastor at Warren, here to talk to you again about Passover. So in our last discussion, we made it through Nissan10, and we saw how Jesus, the Lamb of God, was taken into Jerusalem, the house of God, just as it was described in Exodus 12 for that time when they were coming out of Egypt. And you see that parallel between the Exodus out of Egypt and where the Lord instituted the feast of the Lord, and that what we call Holy Week, where Jesus is in Jerusalem leading up to the crucifixion. And so I want to continue on that. I want to talk about Nissan 11 through 14. Nissan 11 through 14. So that would be what we think of as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Jesus was then crucified Friday morning, was in the grave, and rose on the third day, which would be Sunday, that, by the way, being the Feast of First Fruits. But I won't talk about that part of it until we are at the Passover. So if you want to know more than what I'm going to talk to you about today, then I encourage you to come and be part of the Passover and hear the completion of that. But I want to start off by reading Exodus chapter 12, verses 6 through 20. And it says this: "Now you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month." We were talking about the lamb being brought into the house on the 10th day to the 14th day. "And then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight, and they shall take some of the blood and put it on 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. Then they shall eat the flesh of it that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boil it with water, but roast it in fire, its head and its legs and its entrails. You shall let none of it remain until morning, and what remains of it until morning you shall burn with fire. And thus you shall eat it with a belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, for you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. So this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast of the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leavening from your house. For whoever eats leavening bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and on the 7th day shall be a holy convocation for you. No manner of work shall be done on them, but that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared for you. So you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this day I will have brought your enemies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations of an everlasting ordinance. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the morning at evening. For 7 days no leavening shall be found in your house, since whoever eats that is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether it be a stranger or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your dwellings you shall eat unleavened bread." And so Nissan 14 begins 2 feasts simultaneously: the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Passover feast. So the day of the 14th, because Passover happens at the transition from 14 to 15, like we talked about at 6 p.m. that evening. So the day of the 14th, they would go through the houses and they would remove all leavening. They would search it out, sweep it, get rid of all of it in all of the houses. Now, leavening represents sin, right? And so when you think about this, what they're doing is they're going through and they're searching out and purposely seeking out sin and removing it. And this is a great picture of what God is fixing to do, right? Because he's fixing to do something incredible through the Passover, in which case the leavening will be gone. So it says for that entire 7 days, 7 days being the number of completion, right? That it will be a complete removal of sin. And so it is foreshadowing what is coming. Now, the second thing I want you to notice is the blood on the doorposts. Okay. Now, Hebrew is amazing. The language exists in at least 4 different dimensions. And so I'm going to kind of scratch the surface of it a little bit. But I want to show you something that is kind of reminiscent of a lot of other things that we're going to see during the Passover Seder. The word for truth in Hebrew is emet. Emet is 3 letters, Aleph, Mem, Tav. Now, Aleph speaks of the oneness of God. I am the way, the truth, and the life. All right, the Lord is one, right? And then Mem speaks of water, right? Living water. Jesus said, I am living water. And then Tav speaks of a path or a door. Now, when you look at Tav, it looks like what was struck on the doorpost. When it talks about how the doorpost was struck, it actually created the letter Tav. Now, in the old Proto-Hebrew, Tav was actually represented by a cross. So the cross becomes a door. So you see this picture, right? This multi-layered picture as the blood of Christ becomes the doorway to eternal salvation. And so this is the nature of Passover in the Feast of the Lord. Is God is showing what he's doing through the work of Christ on the cross, which is coming. And so that's really what I want to leave you with, is I want to leave you with an invitation to Passover, to come and experience this immersion of so much width, breadth, and depth of God's plan, as he shows us through sights and sounds and tastes and words what he is doing, to understand the fullness of communion. This is where, when we take communion, we take of the bread and the blood. These are only a small portion of Passover. There's so much more to it. And so I want to invite you to just come and bathe in the depth of what God is showing us about his salvation to come. Now, Jesus was then, like I said, crucified on Friday morning after the Passover feast that night, and they spent in the garden, right? And he was raised to life on the Feast of First Fruits as the first fruit of the living. And I won't even get into Pentecost and some of the other festivals right now. I'm going to save that, and I want to invite you and encourage you to come be part of the Passover celebration on April 22nd. I'll see you there.